Ava never believed weakness could feel like strength until the night everything she feared came crashing down around her and forced her to choose between control and love. Because for months, she had convinced herself that Daniel was only her bodyguard, a necessary shield in a dangerous world built on power, wealth, and enemies who smiled in public while plotting in private. Yet somewhere between late-night strategy meetings and quiet rides through rain-soaked Manhattan streets, his steady presence had become the one constant she relied on more than her own carefully constructed walls. And when the threat against her company escalated into something far more personal, when betrayals surfaced from someone she had trusted since childhood, she finally understood that the greatest risk was not the danger outside, but the feelings she had buried inside. It happened during the annual charity gala hosted at her glass-walled penthouse overlooking the Hudson River, an event meant to display confidence and stability after weeks of rumors targeting her leadership. And Ava wore a silver gown that shimmered under crystal chandeliers, while Daniel stood nearby in a tailored black suit, his posture calm, but eyes scanning every movement with disciplined precision. Yet even in a crowded room filled with investors and political figures, there was a current of unspoken tension between them, a memory of the night they almost crossed a line they could never uncross. When the power suddenly flickered and the music stopped mid-note, the room erupted into confusion, and Daniel moved instantly, his hand finding Ava's arm as emergency lights cast everything in a red glow that turned elegance into something ominous. And within seconds, he was guiding her toward the secure corridor while security teams attempted to regain control. But this was no simple blackout. It was a calculated breach, a distraction designed to draw her into vulnerability. And as they reached the private elevator, a masked figure emerged from the shadows with a weapon raised, forcing Daniel to react with a speed that blurred the line between instinct and sacrifice, positioning himself between Ava and the threat without hesitation. The confrontation was brief yet violent, echoing against marble walls before security subdued the attacker. And in the aftermath, Ava realized her hands were trembling not from fear of death, but from the realization that Daniel had risked everything without a second thought. Back inside her penthouse, once order was restored and guests were escorted out under controlled calm, Ava stood alone near the floor-to-ceiling windows watching city lights shimmer against the dark river, her reflection merging with the skyline she had conquered through relentless ambition. And Daniel approached quietly, his expression composed, though a faint bruise marked his jaw, proof of how close danger had come. She turned to him, the weight of months pressing against her heart, and asked the question she had avoided since the day he entered her life. "Why do you keep choosing me over your own safety?" Daniel held her gaze steadily and answered with honesty, stripped of professionalism, because somewhere along the way, protecting you stopped being a job and started being the only thing that matters to me. The simplicity of his words shattered the last barrier she had built for herself, and Ava realized that the independence she had guarded so fiercely had never meant isolating herself from love, only from dependence, and Daniel had never sought to control her strength, but to stand beside it. She stepped closer, closing the distance that fear had maintained for too long, and admitted that he was her greatest weakness not because he made her vulnerable, but because he made her care more deeply than she ever intended, and that caring terrified her more than any corporate rival ever could. Daniel reached for her hand slowly, giving her space to pull away if she chose, but she didn't. Instead, she intertwined her fingers with his, grounding herself in the warmth she had denied for months. Outside, sirens faded into distant echoes as the city resumed its relentless rhythm, indifferent to the transformation happening within the glass tower above it. Ava understood that threats would continue, that power would always attract opposition, yet she also understood that facing it alone had never truly been strength. In that quiet moment, illuminated by city lights, she made a decision that redefined both her company and her heart. Daniel would no longer stand in the background as a silent protector, but beside her as an equal partner in every sense. The next morning, headlines praised her composure during the attempted attack, unaware of the personal shift unfolding behind closed doors, and when Daniel prepared to submit his resignation out of concern that their relationship could compromise her image, Ava stopped him with a firm declaration that leadership was not about appearing untouchable, but about embracing authenticity, and she refused to let public perception dictate her happiness. Their relationship was not reckless. It was forged through trust under pressure, strengthened by nights of uncertainty, and choices made without guarantee of reward. Weeks later, standing together at a press conference addressing enhanced security measures and strategic expansions, Ava felt Daniel's reassuring presence at her side, not as a shadow, but as a visible part of her world. And though speculation swirled, she met it with unwavering confidence, proving that vulnerability did not diminish authority. That evening, back at the penthouse where it all began, the air felt different, lighter, as if the walls themselves acknowledged a shift from isolation to unity. And Daniel confessed that he had once believed love would compromise his focus, that attachment would create hesitation in critical moments, yet protecting her had shown him that love sharpened his resolve rather than weakened it. Ava smiled softly, recognizing that the same truth applied to her ambition. Loving him did not distract her from success, but gave it a deeper meaning. As they stood together,